Welcome to episode number 366 of the Genuine ScLoHo Media and Marketing Podcast. My name is Scott Howard, also known as ScLoHo. This is an ongoing collection of media, marketing, and personal insights with a fresh update nearly every week since 2017. This is the audio recording of our articles you can find at my website, scotthoward.me. Altogether, I published over 1,600 articles, and this one is titled, What Should You Include in Your Radio Ad? And even though I'm recording this at the Federated Media Studios in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I work for WOBO Radio, and this is being promoted by my employer, everything that I say or write is strictly my own thoughts and not necessarily the opinions of Federated Media or any of their affiliations and or advertisers. There's a lot of information on how to buy advertising, where to place it, and how often it should run. But one subject that I rarely see talked about in my industry is the content of the advertising. And if there's not much being said inside my industry, the advice from outside is even worse if you can even find it. So today I'm going to show you how to apply human relationship principles to your ad content. Last month, I was meeting with a successful business owner who's returning to our radio station airwaves, and I'll share with you the advice that I gave him. Everything that we include in an ad has to be measured from a listener perspective, not the business owner perspective. I want to read that last line again. Everything that we include in an ad has to be measured from a listener perspective, not the business owner perspective. People consume media as individuals. Unlike attending a concert or a sporting event where there are hundreds or thousands in attendance, the audience listening to your ad is one person. Even if 5,000 listeners are tuned in at the time your ad airs on the radio, it's a different experience than the crowd experience. So for now, though, I want to focus on the content of your ad. For a long time, 60 seconds was the standard length for radio ads. We had a full minute to talk about your business. However, as our attention spans have become shorter, I questioned if we needed 60 seconds or would 30 seconds be better. When I was the WOWO General Sales Manager, I restructured our rate card. The net effect was we could afford shorter ads for less money than we were previously. And this allowed some of our advertising partners to get more ads for the same money, and it lowered the cost of entry to get an effective radio campaign on WOWO. As an advertising copywriter, I noticed that most, not all, but most 60-second ads had about 30 seconds to 40 seconds of good stuff, and then the remaining seconds were repeated information or unnecessary ad fluff filler. So I worked with my sales team to help them improve the ad content to trim the message to 30 seconds in many cases. Now, the next step is, can you communicate your message in 10 or 15 seconds instead of 30? This takes a bit more discipline, but it is a good exercise. After all, if someone takes twice as long to tell you something that because they included lots of extra unnecessary information, that can be annoying, right? I've trained others on in-person networking and elevator speeches. If you don't know, an elevator speech concept is that you've stepped into an elevator and you've got just a few seconds to tell someone who you are as you ride to the next floor. What do you say? Well, the same exercise that helps you choose your words wisely should be applied to your ads. Because, after all, your ad message is being delivered to an individual. So, last month, when I was meeting with this business owner that I mentioned, we were reviewing the ads I had created for his restoration company. We had already agreed on a budget and the length of the ads. I had 30-second and 15-second ad options for him. He selected the 15-second ad option that gets him a decent amount of exposure for the money invested in the campaign. The initial ad campaign was timely and straight to the point. Focus on frozen pipes and water damage along with a company name and web address. Even mention the phone number, which is a very old school, I know. Initially, he asked if we could mention it's the January and cold weather, and if your pipes freeze, contact them, etc. My response was, we don't need to tell them about the weather or the month. we had 15 seconds to talk to the people who already had the problem and connect them with your company. Now, a tiny fraction of listeners will ever have frozen pipes this winter, but we need to reach as many potential people as possible. And with the shorter 15-second messages instead of longer ads, I can get their ad on more frequently, which builds familiarity with our listeners. Since this company was established and not a startup and a previous advertising partner, their ads didn't need to sell the company, just the solution that they were providing to our listeners who needed their help. It's really that simple. By the way, I did rework the frozen pipe ad slightly to make sure the words we used were correct, and we only promised what we could deliver. Here in Fort Wayne, Indiana, we had a streak of sub-freezing temperatures that will make this particular ad timely for quite a while. The other ad I created for them is also ready to air once this cold spell lifts. Well, there you have it, a real-life example of what to put in your radio ad, and just as important, what to leave out of your ad. In a future article, we'll have more tips on this. In the meantime, contact me for help with your ad campaign. If you have any questions about advertising and marketing that you don't know who to ask, you can ask me. Email scott@wowo.com. That's scott@wowo.com.
Podcasts by Federated Media.